We were discussing last week, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago, about mitzvot. Whether you need to have intent when you do a mitzvah or not. Do you remember this? Which then many rabbis say you need to have kavanah, and that's Maran Rabbi Yosef Kairo's rule. Some rabbis say that you don't, but maybe we'll switch this to us. But definitely, according to everybody, that's an ideal to have kavanah. So let's read the bottom of page 161. In the middle, more correctly. Kavanah b'mitzvat tzitzit. The kavanah, the intent you're supposed to have when you wear tzitzit.
I see.
See this? Chavdal 20. Yes, very good. Halacha rovachat biyadenu. There's a halacha in our hands. Shemitzvot tzerichot kavanah. That mitzvot need the proper intent when you do them. The term for that is mitzvot tzerichot kavanah. Meaning, if you do a mitzvah and you don't think about the mitzvah that you're doing when you do it, you don't get the mitzvah that you were trying to accomplish. For example, if you're supposed to think about X when you make the blessing of tzitzit and put it on, and you don't think about X, you don't even get the mitzvah of tzitzit, even though you're wearing it. If a person prays without thinking about what they're saying, they don't get a mitzvah of praying. If a person keeps Shabbat, but not because they want to keep Shabbat, they just slept through, they fell asleep on Friday, woke up Saturday night, they don't get a mitzvah of keeping Shabbat, even though they actually kept Shabbat. Or at least half kept Shabbat. They were passive on Shabbat, but the active part of Shabbat they didn't accomplish.
A whole tefillah?
Okay, so here's a good question. Where does kavanah play? How much of tefillah needs to have kavanah?
No, the Rambam speaks about it.
Right, so this is obviously a good point, and it was a generalization what Zev pointed out. The idea is that to have tefillah and just read words and not think goes against the very nature of the mitzvah of tefillah. There are definitely parts that must, more than others, have kavanah, and we're going to see that later on in this book. Therefore, when you come to wrap yourself in your tzitzit, you should have in mind, I'm coming to fulfill the biblical mitzvah of tzitzit. Mitzvah aseh. It's not rabbinic, it's not a custom, it's a biblical mitzvah to wear tzitzit.
And does the biblical mitzvah include both tali katan and tali kadol?
It's a great question. Probably on both you're trying to fulfill a biblical obligation. So you would try to have kavanah for both. And ideally, you should also have in mind. I mean, the basic kavanah you should have is, I have in mind that I'm fulfilling a mitzvah from the Torah. But ideally, you should also think, Shetzivanu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem commanded us lihitatef b'tzitzit, to wrap ourselves in our tzitzit, kedei, in order, sheniskor kol mitzvotav la'asodam, so we should remember all the mitzvot to do them. Uchmosh ne'emar, like it says in Bamidbar, top of page 162, Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotay. This is from Shema. In order so that you may remember and fulfill all of my mitzvot.
So you remember, so
you remember so?
No, it's like when you look at the tzitzit, you're remembering mitzvot.
Yes.
So it's like you have to remember so you can do.
That's the next one. This is remembering so you could do. The next one is uhitem, you should look at them. So you can remember it called mitzvot Adonai v'azemutam. All the mitzvot of Hashem, so that you may do them.
So it seems like Kavanah would have a very special status here.
Definitely. You can move this tray if you want to see it.
Or you can eat it first. There's a lot of cake left.
Food for thought.
What about a person, 162? What about a person who doesn't have kavanah when it comes to fulfill a mitzvah? Harehu bichlal ma shene'emar, he's included in the category of what it says in the prophet Yeshayahu. The prophet Yeshayahu says, Befiv u'bisfatav kibduni. This people has, with their mouth and their lips, they have honored me. V'libo rechak mimeni, but their heart is very far away from me. Uti yiratam uti, and their fear of me is mitzvat anashim melumada. This phrase you'll hear a lot, especially among Israelis. There literally translates mitzvat anashim. It's a commandment of people melumada that they were raised with. I'll explain.
Habitual.
Very good. It's habitual. You ask a person, why are you observant of Torah mitzvah? There are two answers you can get for that. Many people will tell you, maybe I once wasn't, and I chose this life after searching and thinking intellectually, emotionally, that this is right for me. And some people who have, you might think, oh, they're so holy, they've always been observant, but it's not true. Very often, they are only doing this, not because they believe in something or they've decided this is for them. They were raised that way. It's the easiest lifestyle to continue just because that's where I was raised. And I see this sometimes.
It's like automatic in a way.
It is. It's like an autopilot. Yeah.
It's like you're driving.
And very often this can be in all camps of Jews, of people who go through the motions. It's a rote, it's a habit, it's routine, but it's not meaningful. They come to tefillah because they have to come to tefillah. They put on tefillah in the morning because, I don't want to go to hell. Whatever they do, but it's nothing that they've thought through. They don't have any kavanah when they do this. And Hashem is upset. Hashem says, what do I need you for? With your mouth and your lips you honor me, but your heart is so far away from me. If you ask a person what they like more, dinner in a restaurant or coming to the Beit Knesset, I know what most people will say. Ask a little Jewish kid what he likes more. A lollipop or sitting at the Shabbat table? You know what he'll say. There's no love for what we're doing. There's no enjoyment out of what we're doing. There's no kavanah out of what we're doing. Hashem says, you think I need words? I'm bored, so I need someone to talk to me and praise me. And oh, king who sits on his glorious throne. Hashem says, I need these things. I need you to think that I'm a king. Rabbi Hollander, you should live and be well. When I first came back from yeshiva, so the style we speak to rabbis in yeshiva, we never speak to rabbis in first person, always in third person. So instead of, if Jack was my Rebbe, instead of saying, would you like a glass of water, I would say, would Rebbe like a glass of water? All right? So we speak to him in third person. Or would the Rav like a glass of something to that effect?
It's usually a cut down when someone speaks in the third.
Right. So in the religious community, it's considered the opposite. On top of that, in Hebrew and in Hasidic communities, especially where they speak Yiddish, they actually speak to rabbis in plural. This I can't replicate in English because
the royal we.
It's you would speak out yourself the we, but you speak to them as in would you, but plural, meaning instead of ata, we would say atem. But atem is for a group of people. Yeah. I don't do that personally, but that's the test. When I came back to San Diego and I met Rabbi Hollander, I said, "Would Rebbe like that?" And Rabbi Hollander told me, "I actually would prefer you just call me Rabbi Hollander, and if you say you," he said, "because I'd rather that instead of just respecting me with your mouth, you actually like me and respect me." And you can talk to me however you want. He said, instead of the yeshiva boys that I know that don't respect me and don't like me, but would just, they speak out of honor because that's what they have to do.
Wasn't Adoni a term of expression?
Sure, once upon a time. Rav Peretz still would say to that person, Adon Ichbad, you honorable master. Or sometimes they call his wife Giveret,
Like Abraham and Eliezer. Eliezer and Yitzchak? I always mix it up.
Yes.
And he went to look for a wife.
Yes, so the Adoni would be literally my master, which is archaic just because of the context we live in today. People don't really have masters. So there are other words that we use in modern Hebrew for that, but yes, definitely now, here's the big question of them all. It has a good answer, but I like the question more than I like the answer. If to a rabbi I must speak to in third person, Then why Hashem, I tell him Ata? Baruch Ata. To the rabbi, I can't say Ata, because it's a lack of respect. But to God, I can.
Why is that more familiar? Why is it more
What's really interesting
intimate?
is in some of the tefillah, they mix the persons together in one paragraph. You're talking in the third person.
Don't go far. I just said Baruch Ata. Continue with me. Baruch Ata Hashem. Blessed are you, Hashem.
Yeah.
Elokeinu, Melech HaOlam, our God, the Master of the world, King of the universe, yeah. Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav. We should say b'mitzvotcha, mitzvotecha. He commanded us with His mitzvot. V'tzivanu, and again, He commanded us. Litateh, for laniach.
Yeah.
So we just switched from you to...
One sentence.
Anyone here familiar a little bit with Kabbalah?
No.
Yeah, a little,
I mean,
little
maybe
bit.
somebody is.
There are terms in Kabbalah that are called the Nefesh HaChaim. Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin asked this question. His answer is, and I don't want to get into the details of this answer, these are two aspects of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have two camps of people who always believed in God. Those who believed in a immanent God, a God that is inside, is close, is near, and those who believe in a transcendent God, a God who is far, who is the king of the worlds and looks down into this universe. Judaism doesn't believe in either of them. Rather, Judaism believes in both. A God who is both above this world and out of this world, and also who fills this world. Those of you who know a little bit of Kabbalah also would know the term tzimtzum, that Hashem constricted himself, I don't know the word they use in English, contracted himself, and in the vacuum created the world. Okay, these are concepts already above my pay grade. But the idea is that there's a part of Hashem that is far from us, a part of Hashem that is in us, it is near to us. And for that we say Baruch Atah. We're referring to the immanent Hashem, the aspects of Hashem which are immanent, and Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kedishanu, when we speak again in this third person, a more distant form, is the Hashem that is surrounding the world. In Kabbalistic terms, the words are Mimale Kol Almin, He who fills all the worlds, Umisabev Kol Almin, and He who surrounds all the worlds. Two different Kabbalistic terms. That's probably where the formula of the bracha came from. Now, if you're a rationalist and don't believe in Kabbalah, so I don't know how to answer the question better for you. That's my... All right.
But were the persons mixed up in ancient Hebrew language? I always was taught the reason why they had the confusion of the persons in the first, second, and third person in the same paragraph is because that's the way ancient Hebrew was.
You have to give me an example, and I'd have to look at it.
I don't know.
Right, so maybe you'll look one up for me and bring it back. And
Well, I
look
can
at
tell you, you can go to any prayer. In the Psalms, in the Tehillim, there's a lot of examples of that. Like, I think Psalm 91 is that way. Where
A lot of ancient languages are not consistent on tense.
I was just reading a letter today
Like Chinese, for example.
from Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, the current Svarah chief rabbi. But whether in the Siddur we should go through and correct everything according to Hebrew grammar. Maybe I'll, instead of tenses, or I'll go with you on masculine or feminine. We'll sometimes find ourselves referring to Hashem in the same sentence, both as a male and as a female. Meaning, in the masculine, Modim anachnu lach, we give thanks to you. In the feminine, Shata, that's Ata is not a woman who said to a man. So we immediately switch into a masculine.
Same sentence.
In the same sentence. Some would go on to go through and correct Modim anachnu lecha or Modim anachnu lach she'at. But we know that we don't have such a thing. Rather, it's both. Why it's both is a long story. But there are some rabbis. There's a rabbi in Bnei Brak who has corrected his entire siddur. And for example, instead of saying nakdishach v'naritzach, because that's in feminine, he'll say nakdishcha v'naritzcha. But I believe.
Sometimes Sephardim and Ashkenazim also use different things, like we see Hashem is Shuatach.
Oh, okay, very good. This is the same story. Is it lishuatach or lishuatcha?
Right.
Is it mitzvotach or mitzvotecha? Is it? The Ashkenazim are pretty consistent about this. There are only a few places where Ashkenazim refer to Hashem in the feminine, whereas in Sephardic Siddur, we're jumping all over the place. Masculine, feminine, this sentence, that sentence. then it could be that, I don't want to say, I'm holding my tongue here. According to the grammar of Hebrew, the Ashkenazim are correct here. They're correct. And the few times where they refer to Hashem in the feminine has a reason for it. Either it's a feminine aspect they're trying to bring out of the tefillah or something to that effect. But when you start to edit the Siddur, you get Jews on their toes. They get very worried. What do you mean? Who are you? You're coming to change things. Don't change things. Even if you try to convince them you're just changing things back to the way they used to be, they get angry at you. So this rabbi who changed the Siddur in Bnei Brak got himself in big trouble by some people. Even Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, who just corrected certain mistakes in the Siddur that crept in. There was a rabbi who wrote about him in his introduction to his other Siddur. We're not like that rabbi sits in Jerusalem who thinks that he knows better than all of our forefathers. That was the attitude. So I just be careful with what you do. Though talking about Siddurim, and you might appreciate this more than anybody, I found a Siddur recently online, just a photocopy of a page from Germany that was printed in the 1800s that had the words in the Siddur, the letters that were the root of the Hebrew word were bold, and all the other letters in the sentence were hollow inside. So when you pray, you know what is the root of every single word in the Siddur. And what that does is phenomenal. Is if you if you know a little bit of Hebrew, especially the roots, you're very quickly able to know what every word means. And for students, especially, like if we would teach younger children to read like that, it doesn't change the way you say it, just the way you see it. There's a very visual aid to help discover the roots. So it could do wonders of. My feeling is that it must have been printed by early enlightened Jews. That could have been where this came from, and that's why we never saw it anywhere else. But just because it came from them doesn't mean they were wrong about it. My thoughts. All right. V'yesh nohagim, some of the custom lomar l'shem yichud, to say l'shem yichud, kodem bechat talit v'nitba'er le'el, before you wear your talit, as we've explained above. Is there Hebrew, English, Sephardic, Siddur anywhere that translates? Does the Ben Mugi translate l'shem yichud, or just has it in Hebrew?
Just has it. I've never seen one that translates that part.
The Orot is not translated, right?
The Chabad Siddur.
The Ben Mugi one? Let's look at it.
Where, is there one over here? Ben Mugi? Well, Chabad only has one sentence of l'shem yichud.
Right, that's true. They do translate it.
That's not the Ben Mugi, I don't
I
think.
know, but this one might have.
Or wrote.
No, the Orot I don't think.
You want Shabbat Siddur?
The Chabad Siddur doesn't have it.
You know, a lot of Ashkenazi Siddurs have Hineni Muchan.
Right. Well, that was the Ashkenazi version of l'shem yichud. This one doesn't have it either. Where's the Ben Mugi? We have one spelling over here.
It already has one.
It was here, it was different.
Yeah. Oh, they have it. Let's just read through the Shem Yichud in English. We'll get the basic concept of it. If you wanted to, you don't have to say the whole Shem Yichud, but just to jot some of these down, and before you put on your talit next time, just think of these things. You don't have to say the whole formula. Look, that's how long it is. So imagine if you had to do that before talit, before tefillin, before washing your hands, just to get the general idea. And I'm going to skip the part of uniting the Yud K and the Vav K, and that's not what I'm here to talk about. Page 11 here. I hereby come to enwrap my body with the talit of tzitzit, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of my Creator, as it is written in the Torah. So first, I'm just coming to fulfill the mitzvah, like we said. I'm doing a biblical mitzvah. That's the idea of tzitzit. They shall make tzitzit for themselves in the corner of their garments throughout their generations. Then they must put a thread of tchelet onto the tzitzit of the corner. So here we just have, I'm doing it in order to fulfill a mitzvah from the Torah. Just as I enwrap my body in tzitzit, so may you, Hashem, enwrap my soul, my 248 limbs, my 365 sinews, with a light of tzitzit, which has the numerical value of 613. Oh, here's the math. If you take 5 knots and 8 strings in each corner, you just add them to the word tzitzit. Tzitzit comes out numerical value of 600, so you get up to 613. That's how it came out. Just as I cover myself with the talit in this world, so may I merit to the garment of the rabbis and a nice talit in the world to come, in the supernal garden of Eden. Okay, must be that what you wear here is connected to what you'll wear in the future. Not like your tie, what color tie you're going to wear. It's the mitzvot that you do here in Kabbalistic literature becomes your levush, the garments that you bring with you to the next world. And the idea is that a person who didn't do mitzvot here will appear in the next world, but naked. And that certain embarrassment that a person would go through being naked in the street would be the same thing as, you're showing up to the party, it's a costume party, but you came wearing a tuxedo. So it would be the same kind of feeling. Through the mitzvah of tzitzit, may my life force, spirit, soul, and prayers be saved from the external forces. Okay, here you have Kabbalistic idea of protection. Tzitzit is worn as to protect me from the chitzoni, the outer forces. May the talit spread its wings over them and save them like an eagle awakening its nest, hovering over its young. Therefore I have come to add holiness to the supernal worlds, to purify the sins and all the blemishes that I have committed with my eyes, my hands, or my body in this world. Those are the three parts of your body that you use for tzitzit. Eyes, you see, body you wear, and hands as you're putting it on. And so may be your will, Hashem, our God and God of our ancestors, that the unwrapping of the talit be considered before you as if I have fulfilled in all its details, specifications and intentions, as well as 630 mitzvot that depend upon it. Amen, Selah. And he's saying, basically, everything else that I would have to think about when I wear my talit is too long to say in this very long paragraph already. And I'm asking you, when I wear my talit, just Hashem, consider it as if I did it with all the details that are needed when I wear my tzitzit. So a few ideas that came out here. First is the biblical mitzvah of tzitzit. 2, to remember the mitzvot of Hashem. 3, to wrap my body up, my neshama, my body parts. 613 mitzvot, I should remember the mitzvot. Maybe a protection for me, may it be what I wear in the Garden of Eden. Some ideas to have in mind when I put on my talit. Uvdiavad.
That's a lot of kavanah.
A lot of kavanah. You know why the Mekubalim pray for so long?
Yeah.
Yesterday I had a yitzhak to buy a Kabbalistic Siddur. I was in the bookstore. No, not bad. I wasn't going to pray with it. I wanted to look at it, to read it. Whatever I could pick up, I would pick up. But I said, next time. That's all this. But there's a lot inside of a Siddur of Mekubalim. They're thick books. There's a lot to know, to think about, to meditate on. Uvdiavad, and if after the fact, im lo kiven, what happens if you did the mitzvah but you didn't have kavanah? You put on your talit but you didn't think about it. Do you get a mitzvah of wearing tzitzit?
Well, for tefillin you do,
So, what do you mean? How do you know it?
because we study it.
What do we say?
Why?
What did we say?
What did we say? The mitzvah is to lay tefillin, which is putting it on, not to say the bracha.
So you would answer the question is if I put on tefillin without a blessing,
Yeah.
I still get the mitzvah of wearing
Yeah.
tefillin. The question here is, what if I put on tefillin with the blessing, without a blessing, but I have no intention in mind to do a mitzvah? Like I didn't think about it when I put it on. I just did it.
Like broke.
Yes. Do I get a mitzvah? We know that you need ideally to have kavanah when you do mitzvot. The question is kavanah gonna, if I didn't have it, it will be detrimental to my performance, or just not going to help me out at all?
Or like in the street where someone puts tefillin on you, and it's more like they're trying to increase the number of mitzvot that are done in the world, but it's not clear if that's happening if you aren't the one that has the.
Oh.
Yeah,
But
exactly. That's a
There's
good point.
different madrigot to doing a mitzvah. And there is a base level of you've done an action, and it's like an asiyah, like an action, but there's also a higher level when you have a soul to it, as a body and a soul. And it's,
Yeah.
Okay,
so
so
it's
Zev
better
saying,
not to separate.
there's
them,
one who
but
says that tefillah below chavanah. Rabbi said that the tefillah without the proper intention, praying without the proper intention, is like a body without a soul. What is a body without a soul?
well, it's like,
It's dead, right? So is that a nice way of saying the mitzvah was worthless? Or does it mean that there is a level of body that just doesn't have a soul?
Well, how much kavanah does it take to lift the soul? If you had kavanah for Shema, it might elevate your whole tefillah.
So now we're getting into a detail here. The question is in general. If I don't have, I know I need to have kavanah, but I don't have kavanah. So did I not get the mitzvah at all, or did I just fulfill it in a much lower level?
I don't think it's all or nothing. I mean, that might be my intention.
But if we were just to read Shulchan Aruch, which says you must have kavanah when you do mitzvot, could there be an interpretation of that which says that if you don't have kavanah, you will not get the mitzvah?
Yeah.
But maybe your neshama has kavanah, but your mind doesn't.
Right, but could there be such an interpretation? Yes,
So,
yes, there could be. So we're trying to figure out how far do we push this? Meaning, how far do we go? That's the real question here. I'm not talking here on a spiritual level of there's a neshama inside of you that wishes to do good and to do right. I'm talking here on a purely halachic level. Would I have to go back and put on my talit again? That's really what it's going to boil down to.
At the beginning of Shemon Esrei,
There is
I
not.
guess so my lips will speak here. It's not even
Right.
yours to do. It's like Hashem, you're giving me the will to say the Amidah.
Well, but that you could say that's already kavanah.
Yeah.
What if a person that's what they do. They wake up in the morning, they roll out of bed, they wash their hands, they put on talit, put on tefillin. They only really wake up like at breakfast.
Right.
Did they get the mitzvah of tefillin? So let's see inside. I mean, we all agree that we need to have kavanah. The question is, what happens if you don't have kavanah? How bad is it? What's my damage? Let's check.
There's different levels of kavanah, and you can also flick in and out of it, because people get distracted the way the mind works. I mean, there's definitely a place of learning what we call today mindfulness, awareness of what one is doing, because it's so easily lost. People have what do they call it? The ADHD, which is not really an existing disease, but just people in this society have a lack of attention to what they're doing.
You know, I was once in a class and somebody told Rav Peretz, Rabbi, when the room goes quiet for Shemoneh Esrei, my mind just wanders. And it's a Yetzer Hara, and I'm trying to fight my Yetzer Hara, and Rav Peretz banged on the table. And it's not a Yetzer Hara to your mind wandering when the room goes quiet. No, wait, are you saying we can space out? And what does Rabbi Peretz say? He said, stop telling everybody that what's going on in their head is bad. And that it's Yetzer Hara. You're making a whole generation of depressed people. Now, about that, it's normal that when you're in a noisy room and the room goes quiet, that your mind starts to think about things that it didn't have the peace to think about beforehand. This is all you need to do is train yourself that when the room goes quiet, I want to focus on one thing in the quiet. It's hard to focus when you're quiet, but that's the whole point of the Shemoneh Esrei. But don't run around and tell me it's my Yetzer Hara and that it's your bad and you got to fight it. And that. You're creating a war that doesn't even exist. What I learned at that moment from our parents was something very deep. We blame a lot of things that are not real, they're not true. Blame. We're guilty enough of nothing. We don't have to keep making ourselves guilty of more things. People walk around, their shoulders are so heavy with guilt already. We don't need to keep throwing baggage onto their shoulders. So let's see about kavanah, because it's a good discussion. Uvdiavad, if after the fact, im lo kiven, you didn't have the specific intentions. Ela sheba lekei mitzvah tzitzit. You have in mind just I'm doing the mitzvah of tzitzit. And you don't have in mind, Hashem, you commanded me to wrap myself in tzitzit, so I can remember all of your mitzvot. You fulfilled your obligation because you had the basic kavanah of doing tzitzit, of doing a mitzvah. Aval.
I didn't get the answer. If you don't have kavanah.
Well, so the first level is if you have kavanah to do the mitzvah of tzitzit, but you don't actually think about it. So what is tzitzit supposed to accomplish for me? I'm supposed to think about all the mitzvot of Torah. You only do the first part, not the second part. I have kavanah just to do the mitzvah of tzitzit, period. But you might say, hey, that's a lot of kavanah in the first place. But Maran demands from you on the top of 161 to have kavanah to do the mitzvah of tzitzit, and to remember that the Kadosh Baruch Hu was the one who told us to do it. The next level, but if a person did not, they had in mind, I'm not even doing a mitzvah now. Even after the fact, you still do not receive any mitzvah whatsoever. But in any case, if you made a blessing in your talit before you put it on, and whatever it does, even though you didn't have in mind specifically to perform this mitzvah, you fulfilled your obligation because by saying a bracha, you are by default having kavanah to do a mitzvah. You don't say a bracha when you look at the sky. You say a bracha when you're doing a mitzvah. And so therefore the fact that you said a bracha already shows that you had kavanah. So breathe a little bit. Don't get so pressured. It's okay. You have on what to rely. But definitely the level of consciousness that we have when we do a mitzvah should be much higher than what it is right now.
You can say a bracha and have the same lack of consciousness as you would by just putting on your towel.
Are you trying to make it worse for us now? Meaning you're trying to tell me that some people don't even have kavanah when they say mitzvah, a bracha.
To say that because you say a bracha, you automatically have kavanah
Is a stretch.
It's a little bit of a stretch.
Right. So you are trying to make it worse for us. It's okay. You're allowed to make it worse for us.
It depends what you mean by kavanah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a focus.
I'm here to fight this out, so don't.
It's a focus, but a focus on what? On the fact that you're doing
what
something,
you're saying?
on your connecting to Hashem. I mean, you can take, there's so many qualitative judgments you can make on the term kavanah.
Kavanah,
yes.
at the very least, has to be that I'm performing a mitzvah now. Meaning, if I'm just putting on a talit to stay warm.
Well, that's...
I'm doing this because
That's
Hashem
different. That's what
said
I'm
so.
talking about.
I'm doing it.
Well, think about this. What if somebody comes to shul, he's a guest, and the only reason he puts on a talit is because the guy who comes in, like, he doesn't want to stick out. Like, he doesn't really ever wear
Well,
a
you
talit.
see that at bar mitzvahs all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Does that person get a mitzvah for wearing a talit? That's the question here.
No.
Well, I don't want to take away that. Like, he does no mitzvot to his name, so I'd rather give him something. But at least according to Maran, no, you're right, he doesn't, because he's not necessarily wearing a talit even because it's a mitzvah. He could just be wearing a talit just to fit in.
Well, there's also levels of education. Something
Absolutely.
we have to educate.
Absolutely.
People have to know something in order to have kavanah in the first place.
I just got today in the mail.
Like the guy who puts on tefillin, like in the mitzvah truck.
Yeah.
He's like, well, okay, this is cool. Let's do this, right?
I just got a letter, a few books in the mail today. These books are only 300 editions printed in 1989, and I found them tracked down in a used bookstore in New York. There's a guy who owns a bookstore there. What he does essentially when his home passes away, and their kids like, oh, my dad had all these old books. And it's just like, who's gonna come pick them up? Puts them on Craigslist or whatever. This guy has old. Then he goes, he picks up the books, he takes the new ones, he takes the old ones, he sorts them out, and he resells them. Sometimes he finds diamonds in there, letters from the Baba Sali he has over there, or manuscripts, handwritten books from Yemen from the 1700s. Crazy things that you would never think somebody had. That's nice things. So he sent me the writings of Rabbi Yosef Kapach, Rabbi Yosef Kafich, depending on how you pronounce his name. He was one of the giants of Yemen, and he was asked this exact question about how much Torah do we teach ladies? That was the question he was asked. And he was very bothered by the question. And you have to imagine, it's a Yemenite rabbi from Yemen who's coming to Israel. Like this it makes sense that someone would ask him such a question. And he says, look at all the mitzvot in the Torah, that we need to think through them. You have to have a kavanah when you do them. A lack of education is the number one enemy of kavanah. Because how do you expect that people are going to be Jewish if they don't know anything about their Judaism? And you're right, this whole thing is a matter of education. Educate people to think, to do mitzvah. Why are you doing the mitzvah? Why are you doing this? Sometimes I'll say something, and not so much in my community, Baruch Hashem, but when I'm somewhere else, in our community, people are very serious about learning. It's true about many other communities also. Just, I've been to communities, I've spoken before, and I'll say something very simple like, you should look at the Torah when you do Hagbah, something like that. Like, look at the letters inside, something to that extent. Or they should show where the parsha is. It's like, oh, really? I never knew why they lifted the Torah. Great. Well, then you've been going to shul for how many years? 40 years of your life. You've never asked them why they pick it up off the table. So you could, for what? Do you think it's just we thought it was a ceremony, a Torah reading ritual. The Torah must be lifted before it's returned to the ark.
Well,
Yes.
I just learned this year about the Hakafot on Hoshana Rabbah. I never knew why we did these.
Oh, okay. Well,
and a patriarch.
So what is it? It just stems down to education of people. We don't say enough to, like, this is a mitzvah, this is why we're doing it, this is what we, even if we don't know why, at least it's the kavanah we should have when we do it. to be much more conscious of the things we do, to do mitzvot a little bit slower. Not like those people when they make a bracha. I've heard to say the bracha is from how long it takes to pick up the food and put it in my mouth. That's how much time. So they go Baruch. That's how they. Right? You have to lift up your food. Look at it. What am I eating? Who created it? Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Shakona. And then
So you choke on the words, not the food.
don't choke on either of them. Maybe I'll leave you out before we do our video. Interesting question. A question of, according to Maran in Shulchan Aruch. It's a question to sharpen your brain. So listen to what I'm saying. In order to fulfill a mitzvah from the Torah, according to Maran, you need kavanah. You need intention. If you don't have intention, you don't fulfill the mitzvah according to the Torah. According to Maran. I'm here speaking only in Maran. What about a rabbinic mitzvah? Rabbinic mitzvot, Maran says, if you do them without the intention necessary, you still receive the mitzvah. Because on words of our rabbis, we're not that strict that if you didn't have kavanah, you're not going to get the mitzvah at all. Do you understand the difference? Biblical needs kavanah, and if not, it's a deal breaker. Rabbinic also needs kavanah, but if not, you still get the mitzvah. I told you a few weeks ago, Maran, Rabbi Yosef Cairo says, the only way to fulfill a biblical level of tzitzit is for your tzitzit or talit to be made out of wool. Any other kind of tzitzit is a rabbinic fulfillment of the mitzvah of tzitzit, according to our rabbis, and you get a mitzvah from the rabbis, but not on a biblical level. And so according to Maran, if I wear a talit that's made out of wool, and I didn't have kavanah, do I get a mitzvah? No. According to Maran, if I wear a talit made out of wool, biblical, and I didn't have kavanah, do I get a mitzvah?
No.
What about according to Maran, if I wear a talit made out of cotton,
Yes.
and I didn't have a mitzvah, do I get a rabbinic mitzvah?
Yes.
Don't be scared.
Yes.
Yes, because we know that according to Maran, you don't need kavanah on a rabbinic mitzvah. So then answer my question. How could it be that on a rabbinic level you get a mitzvah for something, which on a biblical level you wouldn't get a mitzvah for? It's kind of like the more lenient way to fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzit, it might be the safest way to fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzit. I'm purposely, it's a mistaken way to look at this formula.
But it's just, the spiritual root is not as deep.
Very good. So the consequences are not as deep either. I mean, the fulfillment of it and the consequence are not as deep. That's essentially what a rabbinic mitzvah is. A biblical mitzvah demands from us much more concentration, but also comes with a lot more sense of fulfillment. But it's an interesting thing to think about, that by the rabbinic mitzvot, and if we were to know which mitzvot in my day are rabbinic, which are those are biblical, at least let's start with the biblical ones to have in mind. So, for example, the first biblical mitzvah we'll do now is to say Shema Yisrael. The Shema Yisrael is already a different story. Shema Yisrael, at least for Shema. Have kavanah tonight. I'm saying Shema, it's a biblical mitzvah. Shema at my bedtime is not a biblical mitzvah. Saying Aleinu L'Shabech is not a biblical mitzvah. This is the biblical mitzvah. And to have in mind that I want to fulfill a biblical mitzvah with kavanah will continue tomorrow. God willing.
What about when you have to hug around? It's a whole other.
Oh, I was just learning today in the morning. Whether a minhag, Baruch Hashem, I had some time today. Whether a minhag is, do you get any kind of mitzvah for keeping a minhag? Then we know that if you break a minhag, you're violating this concept of do not disregard the Torah of your mother. So does that mean that when I keep a minhag, I also get a reward of keeping the Torah of my mother? The poskim argue about it, and where it has a ram, like what difference does it make if you get a mitzvah? The question is, if I get rid of a minhag, is it just like, okay, I stopped doing something good, or am I actually violating a mitzvah by getting rid of a minhag? How much weight does getting rid of a minhag carry? So do I get a mitzvah for a minhag? We're still out there waiting for the answer.
But ideally, we say that we hold by the minhagim of the Talmud. Not
Yes.
of modern ethics.
Well, minhagim of the Talmud would fall into the category of rabbinic mitzvah.
There you go.
So when we call them minhagim, we do because they were started by our rabbis, but it's a little bit of a misnomer because they're not really customs.
Right.
You don't have a choice to choose whether or not to follow a minhag from the Talmud. You must. So if you must, then it's already in the category of a mitzvah. All right, don't you have a beautiful evening. If you want to stay with us for our video, you're more than
It's not
welcome.
where